while he was strong or whatever? Yeah, because they still thought that there was opportunity to reach the place unheard of, to reach the promised land. Now that the shepherd is no longer there, well, the flock is adrift. And now what? They can't see it. And so, yes, they do become angry. What have I gotten myself into? What have I done? I've heard some of them. They've called me. I'm a son of this Jamaat. I'm a son of this Jamaat. If I had wanted to, right, I could have taken my place beside him and maybe ran the Jamaat, right? But again, as I was a teenager, as I mentioned earlier in this conversation, right, I started to see that something was amiss.
Okay. What was it that opened your eyes as a teenager that showed you something was going on, something was amiss?
Because the energies, mispurposed energies. It wasn't anything Islamic. I'm going to tell you that, and I'm going to be frank and honest with you about that.
Run that by me one more time. You said miss what?
Mispurposed energies. Okay, and I'm going to explain to you what that means. Right. The thing about it is this: in any human being's development, okay, you are given a certain amount of energy for a predetermined amount of time, not predetermined as it would be to you, but as to time itself, as Allah has made it, His rules. Okay, you're only going to be in your 30s for 10 years. You're only going to be in your 20s for 10 years. You will only be a teenager for a few years. Okay, and so on and so forth. During those times, Allah is giving you certain types of wherewithal, certain types of energies that can manifest themselves physically, mentally, intellectually, and in many other ways, and even financially.
Spiritually, don't forget spiritually.
And spiritually, no, I'm getting to
okay.
That is the most important thing.
Right, okay.
That is the most important.
No, I follow. I definitely follow what you're saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so I believe, it is my belief that our energies have been mispurposed, and it has stunted our growth and development as people, and he was a chief component in that. You know, because it was the attraction and the diversion of energy and resources and time to him, right, that have us standing where we stand now. Okay, and to me, it's not a good place. A lot of people think it is. The people who are counter to this, to him, and the people who support him, they think it's a good place. I think none of it's good, because what it speaks to is that, again, everything has been misappropriated. There's been embezzlement of a gross nature, and I'm not talking about money. You know, I'm talking about something far more important than money. And, you know, we could be in a much better place even with each other. We're not important to each other anymore. There's this imaginary philosophy, these imaginary lines, and those things, and they are imaginary, make no mistake about it. We will be destroyed if we continue on this path of fighting each other and slandering each other, either pro or con for the object that we're talking about. Because to me, it's not even, it's an object. It's a thing, like the Holy Grail that they used to talk about the church in medieval times after the Second Crusade, about the Holy Grail. You know, this cup, you know, that's what this thing is like. And no one knows where this cup is. No one knows what it looks like. And quite frankly, no one's ever seen it before, but it's supposed to exist.
Right, it's a part of the white owl. You're familiar with the white owl?
Yes.
Right, there you go. So that's where the cup is at. But we'll get to that, because, you know, that's down the road somehow. But so what was there a situation that took place that, you know, made you be like, okay, this is none of it is making any sense?
There were many things. There were a good many things that took place. It wasn't one situation. It was many situations. And then recollection. Even when I was too young to understand, when I grew older and I recorded those things, and then I tried to reconcile them later and ask questions, and then you're denied. It's put down as you being a doubter. You don't have faith. You know.
What were some of these questions, if you still remember them?
I will tell you that one thing was about marriages. Okay. And I'm just going to touch on it lightly. The thing is that there were a lot of unorthodox marriage practices taking place. You know, you marry someone and you don't serve any dot period. You know, just basic violations of just basic Islamic rules, Islamic law. You know, at its most fundamental level.
Or if you do, someone was divorced and then there was no idda period, basically.
Yeah, and it happened several times.
It happened several
Or
times.
divorce without consent.
Divorce
then,
without consent. Okay.
Absolutely. You know, we all know that in Islam the power.
No. There's a process. You can't just do it. Yeah, right. Definitely. So that's important.
Yeah.
I wanna add, or I wanna ask a question pertaining to the ideology of genealogy, because I think you're familiar with that.
I'm very familiar with it.
Okay.
And that was one of the things I was going to talk about.
Okay, go ahead. What is it that you want to share on that?
Well, the whole thing about Ahlul Bayt, right? That was one of the things that turned me off. Why does it have to? Why does the badging matter more than the product itself? Why, do we have to lead off with that? To me, there wasn't sufficient evidence. My Abu says that there is, and so I've taken a different stance on it. I leave it alone. I was pursuing it at one time to try to find out, and I stopped because I realized what it would do to the followers. That was very important. That was an element of monumental importance. It was a structural element, and the way that it was being used, it was weaponized.
It was weaponized. That he was Ahlul Bayt.
It became an element of fear, like a person sitting in a room with a loaded gun.
Okay.
No one else has a gun.
So yeah, we know, and that's along the lines where he's talking about the sixth sultan. He's the sixth sultan and all this,
Yes.
right? Okay. It's also about him getting knowledge from Imam Ali, right? As a boy,
Yes.
correct? Okay. So all these claims. So let's see. Why is it? And I'm just trying to piece the situation together. Why is it in his disc of genealogy, he's talking about jinn, correct?
He's talking about what?
Jinn, like his relationship with jinn, him having some spiritual...
Yes.
Right. What would you say to the assertion that is sorcery, or that is magic, that is definitely something that he not only preached, but he lived by that stuff, by that magic and sorcery? Because the world of the jinn is not for us, just like our world is not one that a lot, right? So what would you say to the fact that but let me ask a more plain question. Have you ever come across any sayings or any claims that he had prescriptions for jinn to serve you, or for jinn?
Yes.
Okay, what was that like?
Yes. No, prescriptions to drive jinns away. Everyone was wearing the notches.
Okay.
Right. Everybody was wearing the notches, which we know that in Islam about talismans and amulets. Right? Muslims are not supposed. It's strictly forbidden. But everybody was walking around with the notches. I had one at one point myself as a child. Okay.
So there's the notch. And along those lines, so this was a notch to protect you from the jinn, right?
To protect you from evil in general, yeah.
All right.
Jinns, devil, the shaitan himself, and every other ill that ails man.
Okay. Were there any people who had considered to be possessed by jinn for this to have been, his prime way, or did he just suddenly just adopt this along with the bayah? How did this happen?
There were people who were struggling with problems, and those people were declared to be under jinn possession.
They were declared to be under jinn possession.
Absolutely.
And who declared that?
Well, based on what I understand and know, people were brought to him, or their cases were brought to him, right? Maybe him not sitting with the person physically, and then it was determined that they should take certain measures to drive away, the helpers of shaitan or jinns or whatever.
Hold on a second. Let me back up a little bit. You said cases were brought to him, and he's in before him. He's in Pakistan.
Well, sometimes he was here too, and he was here.
Okay, so, but cases would continue to occur after he left, right?
Yes.
And what year did he leave, by the way, to never return to the United States?
I believe it was 89, 90.
Okay. So when cases occurred after 89, 90, then how were those cases presented to him? Do you know? I mean, over the phone, because we're talking.
People who were appointed in the administration would bring that to him.
Okay.
If they felt it was bad enough, they would bring it to him.
They would bring it to him. And of course, him being in Pakistan, he was able to evaluate. Did you ever question or just, surface back as to how he had the ability to even read cases?
No, I didn't question it.
You did not question it.
No, I didn't question it. No one would question it. No one dared question it.
No one did question it.
They only do so now.
They only do so, and why is that?
Well, because again, like I told you, the source of attraction has dissipated. Now you're no longer underneath. I hate to use the language. You're no longer underneath that spell, and now you're back to raw reality.
Oh, I see.
And raw reality dictates that you assess yourself either voluntarily or it just starts happening to you. Mm-hmm. And that's why a lot of folks can't handle it.
I want to ask you a very important question. Take your time and allow it to reflect or to marinate. You are familiar with the fact that he did not, he skipped or he somehow was on a no-fly list, correct? And that's why he never came back after he left in the night.
I'm aware of that, yes.
All right. And was that due to any deeds or actions of his own, as far as you're concerned, or what you can...
It was due to things that he was accused of. There were many suspicions about his involvement in different things that could be considered terrorist acts, that he either orchestrated or conspired, or folks were influenced by him to do it. And that was their accusations. I'm not saying that happened per se. I'm saying that this is what the circumstance was related to him being on those.
Well, that answers the question. And these are questions that I've been asking for 21 years, and I greatly appreciate you coming to term. You said he was accused of these, but he never, and so there were terrorist acts. I believe R2F mentions the bombings of these. So this is what you're talking about, these bombings and the hit. So okay.
And I'll say it in front of anyone. Yeah, okay. This is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
He never answered any questions about it, not from us. He answered questions maybe from the authorities there in Pakistan, the SSI or whomever they are, and whomever else maybe had dealings with it. But I will say this, right? All of these things, right? A person, when they do the things that he's done, a lot of these things swirl around them. People are interested in their marriages. People are interested in their household dynamic. People are interested in the relationship dynamic between this charismatic figure and the followers.
Right.
So
this is
a
true.
lot of things come up. Some are true, some are not true.
Okay. I mean, yes, but by 2001, 9/11, obviously after the Daniel Pearl, a lot of things actually came to surface. And what I'm really dying to understand is that he was labeled a terrorist, practically, correct?
Yes.
And he's in Pakistan, and he has followers from America going to Pakistan. They know where to find him. Did it ever cross your mind as to why the CIA or FBI or whoever did not go to try to negotiate his extradition back to the United States for these crimes?
It crossed my mind many times.
Okay, what answer did you come up with?
I don't know who he was aligned with. I don't know whom he knew. I don't know what his proximity to power was in those environments.
Okay. And as we're saying that, because I'm glad you're answering with you don't really know, right, is the bottom line. But this is really something that, you are testifying to. We are all, testifying by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a shahada, right? And we don't know why that was, why the American authority did not go over there and grab him and, have him come stand for these charges.
Right.
But what do you, in terms of, the fact that, okay, he was already on the terrorist list and he could not come back here, and we knew that, everybody knew that, correct, that he was not allowed to come to the United States.
This is correct.
All right. Why is it that those of us who never got to meet him or never got to understand what he was saying, falls so deeply into following an example of that nature. In other words, these.
Exactly what you're saying.
What's that?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Okay, so what exactly do you say to that?
Well, I would say this. Okay, a lot of it is legacy. Okay, their parents' circumstances clearly dictate that it's not that way. You still begin to believe it, and as we both know, as faith-based people, belief is a very, very powerful thing.
Okay.
And people who never met him before and probably should have no allegiance to him whatsoever, were aligned to him and did believe in him. Because again, it was our everyday life. I mean, there was a time, and I'm not even going to lie to you, as we sit here and talk on this phone, I still love it, but I take it in a different manner than the others process it in. I know that whatever I had to get from him, I received it, and I'm on with things, and that's what they should have done. You speak of a juncture in 2001 where certain things started to come to light, and it was apparent and evident that he more than likely would have never come back here, which if he did so very secretly and in a clandestine manner, and we don't know about it, which I highly doubt. I think that is highly unlikely if it happened. And any that are like it, that he never came back here.
Right.
Okay? And this matter, and what I'm about to say is very important. And I don't care if you tell people or not about this aspect of our conversation tonight. It was at that point that the responsible thing for him to do would have been to shut the Jamaat down, to dissolve it, because this matter here, dealing with these people, as we talked about earlier, the people's backgrounds, where they came from, right? This matter does not only require your attention, it requires your attendance.
Correct.
And he was unable to attend, therefore the responsible thing for him to do would have been to shut it down, to stop it.
And I don't mean to cut you off. And I got a little Lawrence of Arabia in me. Okay, I think you're familiar with the movie, right?
Yes,
Lawrence of Arabia. But we're all thinking back of the civil rights era, and as you mentioned, Nation of Islam is there, Malcolm X is there. All these organizations were infiltrated, as we know, by government spies, agency elements, whatever.
Yep.
What would you say to the assertion that Darul Islam was done the same by the American government through Mubarak Gilani? How would you feel about that?
Listen. I can't refute it at this point because of the things that have taken place over the last 10 years. I can't refute it. I would say that I would like to believe that is not true. I would love to believe that is not true, but I don't have a counter argument to you.
Well, I mean, just look at the fact that, yes, okay, he committed all these terrorist acts, which they charged him for, but they never extradited him back. Although anybody who was highly class member of his talibs could visit him. So we're just trying to piece, again, the situation together. At some point, we're going to have to ask the American government itself to release the files, because we're getting to that. We don't want to, just speak without having the absolute, as we are, after all, in a legislative, situation, we want to have our ducks in a row. But I think that was about it. I think I did not have any other, and I thank you very much. But so for right now, as far as, did you dissolve and renounce him altogether, or you in between, or how does that work?
No, I haven't renounced him.
Okay, Alhamdulillah.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't slandered his name or anything like
right.
that.
It's not about slandering, no.
Yeah, or anything. I just tell my brothers and sisters that we are more important than that legacy.
Wallahi, we do.
Right.
This is
we
important.
as a people, as
Wallahi.
Muslims, we're more important than that.
No, I mean, you remember, as a matter of fact, and thank you very much for reminding me, my mother, I announced her demise when she passed away in Rahmatullahi alayha. This was Ramadan, I believe, 2011, and I announced it at the masjid. She left to her offspring Quran and Sunnah. She says, whatever you all are doing, wallahi, whatever you all are doing with my belongings, this is not my main concern for you. hold on to this Quran, and it's in her will. So do you really believe, again, that all these things, the sorcery, the fraudulent Quranic speeches and ahadith, him not having, a clear story, you're supposed to go to Native Americans, but we don't see why you should. You don't even speak the English, or you don't even speak Cherokee or any other. So all these things is just not, it's not right. And we taught a lot of people, as you mentioned. We were there for several years teaching the Hafiz program. So why not? We're supposed to stand for the Shahada. We're supposed to stand for the Akhirah, not for this dunya. This dunya is the Jannah for the non-believers, and it's a sijin for the believers. And we're supposed to be children of the Akhirah, not of this dunya. And it seems like everybody who's holding on are doing it for prestige. Like you said, they're angry and they're saying like all this time went by, nothing really fanned out. So Jazakallah, thank you so much.
And I thank you for talking to you as well. And I'd like to have other conversations with you